Hey, looks like we're live. Welcome to the Standout Business Show. I'm Brad Powell, your standout coach, and this is where it's all about making a bigger difference by doing business differently. And today, I am going to be talking about how to transform your expert business within the next 20 minutes. Can you imagine? All right, so you've probably heard it at least 1,000 times, if not more, that if you want to grow your brand, you need to post content everywhere, every day. And that includes everything from blog posts to Instagram to LinkedIn to YouTube to your email. And it becomes this never ending cycle. And if you're not showing up consistently, you might as well be invisible, right? Sound familiar? Well, I'm here to tell you that this school of thought is a big fat myth because more content, and this has been my experience, more content does not necessarily equal more clients. In fact, by creating too much content, you might actually be hurting your business. And that's because you're spending all this time posting all over the place instead of working on your business. So today, I want to show you why the content gerbil wheel is actually a big waste of your time and how you can replace it with a smarter, more strategic way to attract high quality leads that come pre-sold and ready to buy. So stay tuned because this is going to change the way you think about your content. And with that, let's start the show. All right, we're back. So you might be thinking, okay, Brad, I get it. I don't need to create more content, but where do I actually find the content that resonates? So what I'm going to share is what I'm calling my zone of genius process for finding your best content. And where do you find it? Well, all you need is your calendar. Because here's the good news. You don't have to create new content. Your best content is already happening. It's just not being captured. And to find it, you only need one thing, and that is your calendar. So here's what I want you to do. Go back. You can do this right now. Go back and look at your calendar from last week. Every meeting, every client call, every podcast interview, every coaching session, every team check-in, everything that you had you showing up and speaking. And the reason you do this is because those moments are where your real expertise is already on display. Most entrepreneurs never realize this. They're so focused on content creation and becoming a content creator is something that separate. They see that, oh, I got to do this other thing that's separate from my actual work. When in reality, your very best content is already happening naturally in these everyday interactions. So here's a real world example. Imagine that last week you had a client call and you were helping someone work through you were helping someone work through a challenge in their business. Maybe they were struggling with sales calls and you walked them through a strategy that immediately clicked for them. Well, most entrepreneurs would just move on from this. They wouldn't think twice about that conversation that they just had. But if you stop and analyze it, that one moment holds at least 5 pieces of content. So here we go. We're going to break it down. 5 pieces. Number 1, the problem that they were facing. You can turn this into a post that speaks directly to people who are struggling with the same problem. Number 2, the solution that you presented. And this could become a video where you walk through the exact advice that you gave. Number 3, the breakthrough moment. You can create short form clips sharing the aha, the light bulb, that realization that came either from you or from your client that changed how they think about the work that they're doing. Number four, you could share a personal story. If you've been through the same kind of struggle, you can tell your own story of how you overcame it. And number five, a question for your audience. You can end your post or you can make up a whole new post with a call to action like, have you ever struggled with this same thing? Drop a comment down below. Tell me what your story is. So, one conversation that you had, 5 pieces of powerful, resonant content. And the best part, you don't have to create any of it from scratch. It was already there. It's something you already did. So here is, I'm just going to drill this in, the 4-question framework for finding your zone of genius moments. So here's the system. Now you can do this for yourself week after week. For each item in your calendar from last week, ask yourself these 4 questions. What problems did I solve? Every time you help someone solve a challenge, that's content. Remember that people buy solutions. So if you've helped someone through a struggle, chances are your audience needs the same insight. Question number 2, what questions did you answer? Every time a client or a team member or an audience member asks you a question, that's proof of what people want to hear from you. So if one person asks, there's probably hundreds more who are wondering the same thing. Question number 3, what realizations did you have? Did you have any aha moments last week? Did something happen where you went, oh, boom, I have this great new idea? Any kind of shift in your perspective from your old way of thinking to the new way of thinking? Well, share those realizations. People love learning from you, especially when you are sharing the journey that you are on. And number 4, which is related to number 3, what are the stories that you can tell? People connect most, and you will become most memorable because of the stories that you tell instead of the strategies that you share. You can say a whole bunch of information. You can give a presentation and go through all the bullet points. But what people will take away is if you share an anecdote or a story that has emotional content that they can relate to and they can connect with. So if you are documenting these 4 kinds of things every single week, you're never going to run out of content. And more importantly, it'll be the kind of content that resonates most deeply with your audience. So why does this process work? And what is the shift in your head, the mindset shift that you probably need to make to do this well? Well, here's how it works so well. Most entrepreneurs are thinking that content creation, that is something absolutely separate and distinctive and that they have to do as an extra chore. But when you start seeing all the stuff in your day-to-day, your regular business activities as your content machine, all this changes. You're no longer creating, you're simply capturing and documenting what's already happening. And I've talked about this before in the past. In fact, there's a previous episode where I broke down the same problem, question, realization stories in great detail. And in that episode, I was talking about how you can go back and take those ideas and then go and create new content. But what I'm going to suggest now is that actually, now what you want to do is look forward into your calendar and say, oh, what are these same kinds of things that are going to happen in the near future that I can capture simply by recording them? Because most interactions that we have, whether we're on a podcast, when we're in a meeting on a Zoom call, all of these things can easily be recorded just by hitting record. And now you're in the moment, you're in your zone of genius, and bonus, you are creating content. and it's your very best kind of content for all the reasons that I just described. So right now, this is what I want you to do. Go look at your calendar from last week, pick just one call, one meeting, or one conversation. And when are you going to have that again in your future? Run it through the 4-question framework and see what content ideas might come out of that. And when that meeting happens in the future, record it and then apply those 4 questions to it. And you will have so many ideas about what you can be talking about as time goes on. And you will start training yourself so that when you're in these moments, you can be speaking in bite-sized things that make for good content. You know, let's just look at the political world. Like if you're a politician, politicians are super good at this. They go out into the world, they get on interviews, they make their speeches, they do all these things, but they know that whatever happens, like whatever question they're going to be asked, they know that I have these 4 things that I always want to talk about. And these are the main points that I want to get across. And they're really good at articulating that clearly and making their point come across clearly and doing it in a succinct manner so that now that one little piece can be turned into content and spread out all over the internet or turned into a thread or a simple one-line text post, things like that. And you want to be training yourself to become good at this kind of thing so that you too can be in the moment, in your zone of genius. All of this comes naturally. It's just coming right out of your head and your own expertise. And you are genuinely helping people by actually showing how you help them. And when you're doing this kind of content, you are giving people the experience of what it's like to work with you and giving them the experience of getting the results that they are looking for. So this is the secret to marketing that actually works better. And it's, because it's not just showing up. It's not just creating tons of content and putting out all over the place. It's actually letting people experience what it's like to work with you before they ever buy. And this is exactly what I'm going to be presenting in a free masterclass that I'm hosting. It's called Make Coaching Your Marketing. And it's presenting my experience first marketing process. And depending on when you're listening to this, as I'm publishing this right now, my very next masterclass is tomorrow on Wednesday, February 26th, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. But if you're listening to this when the audio version of this comes out, go to awesomevideomakers.com/blueprint, and you will find the new date for when I'm doing it again next month. And it doesn't matter if you're listening to this sometime in the future, I'm going to be doing this monthly, so you can always find an upcoming date for this particular presentation. This is probably the biggest mind-bending shift that I've had in my own business and that I'm helping to engender in my clients' businesses in this past year. And it's made all the difference in terms of my own approach to how I look at how do you market well and how do you market in a way that truly resonates with your audience and brings them along with you in the moment because they're actually seeing you doing the thing that you do really well. And they're experiencing what it's like to work with you because this is what you're doing and you're showing exactly what you're up to, what you believe in, what your processes are like. And you can do this in real time, as a documentarian with all of the work you're doing quite naturally, and you don't have to add new stuff to your plate to market yourself really well. So I'd love to have you join me in my next masterclass. Just go to awesomevideomakers.com/blueprint and register. It's free, and I'll see you there. And I'm just going to take a moment and take a look here looks like we're just about done. Well, that's what I have for you today. And thanks so much for listening. I want to remind you that if you would like to go and get the entire archive of the Stand Up Business Show, just go to standoutbusiness.show and it's all there, all the audio and the video. You can binge to your heart's content. I go live every single Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Until next week, that's the best way to join. I'll see you when we're on live. And if you got value from this episode, I'd love to have you go find the show on Apple Podcasts and give it a 5-star review. That really helps the algorithm. And I would love to hear from you and see what you think about this show. And if it's helping your business stand out. And with that, I'm going to say so long.